Not all of our minisodes need to be from listeners. In fact, places or lesser-known cases can sometimes take us to dark realms. Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of Dark Realms. The minisodes we began putting out during Halloween on a Monday seem to gain both a lot of interest but also a lot of support from our existing listeners. And so I proudly welcome you all to something which is here because of you. You asked for it to continue, and therefore, like I say, this is your show, and therefore it has. It has not and will not replace the minisode you receive on a Wednesday. We're not changing the title of that. It will remain a dark minisode, and they will solely be listener submissions. Whereas Dark Realms allows us to look at the broader spectrum of the paranormal. It allows us to look at maybe places as opposed to cases. And that's not to say we won't be looking at any paranormal cases. We will, but hopefully there'll be some lesser known ones. Yet I've no doubt the absolute enthusiasts out there will have heard of those cases, but hopefully you'll learn something new during this re-look, I suppose, at a case you might already know through the lens of the Dark Paranormal podcast. As always, our Patreons will have received this episode a few days before anyone else and ad-free. So if you'd like to join them, head over to patreon.com/The Dark Paranormal. There are very few genuinely mysterious places that when you walk around that area or that town, you get that distinct sense you're surrounded by some sort of fog of thick, penetrating energy, like a dark history. And the town, which holds the thing we will talk about today, has that sort of vibe. I was fortunate enough to live there for a few months, and it is one of the most welcoming places in the world. And truthfully, if you are looking for a town of dark beauty, there is no better place, I believe, than the town of Edinburgh, Scotland. It's a town which literally seems to be crawling with ghosts, or at the very least, indescribable darkness. Yet, as I say, the architecture, the way the city is laid out, it is one of the most beautiful places I think I've ever been. But today we're not going to be talking about beauty, we're going to be talking about the Edinburgh Vaults. Even today, if not for the signs, you could enjoy a pleasant stroll straight past one of the allegedly darkest places, not just in Scotland, but perhaps the whole of the UK. It's no surprise this malevolent hidden space of one of Europe's most beautiful cities remained undiscovered for so long. Hidden beneath the bustling heart of Scotland's capital lies the Edinburgh Vaults. A labyrinth of chambers and passageways that once served as the dark underbelly of a thriving city. Constructed in the late 18th century beneath the South Bridge, these vaults have witnessed centuries of human despair, suffering, and, some say, encounters with the supernatural. Their stone walls have absorbed the echoes of misery, and now, visitors claim, they harbour the restless spirits of those left behind. To understand why the vaults are said to be haunted, we must first consider their history. A history marked by shadows and unimaginable suffering. Built in 1788, the South Bridge was intended as a symbol of progress. A marvel of engineering designed to connect Edinburgh's bustling old town with the ever-expanding new town. Yet beneath its arches lay something much, much darker. They were vaults that became a cesspool of illicit activity and abject poverty. As commerce and the bridge's upper levels flourished, the underground chambers would slowly transform into a refuge for the city's most desperate. A place where Edinburgh's unwanted could vanish, unseen and unheard. Initially, the vaults were intended for merchants to store their goods. But the vaults quickly proved inhospitable. Water would seep through the stone, creating damp, stifling conditions that would turn the storage rooms into dripping, darkened cells. So the merchants abandoned the vaults. And as we know, nature abhors a void. And the dark, cold, unforgiving labyrinth was like a beacon for the poorest in Edinburgh. The ones who had nowhere else to go. They were the ones forced into the very depths of the vaults. A sprawling, vast underworld, cut off from the sun and filled with despair, crime, misery. Entire families crammed into the dark, narrow chambers with barely any light. Parents with young children living alongside criminals, smugglers, and those with nowhere else to hide. The air would be thick with the scent of human waste, rot, and the ever-present dampness that would cling to the skin like a shroud. Disease would spread unchecked through those vaults, with tuberculosis and cholera claiming countless lives. But the cries of the sick and the dying would echo endlessly through the stone corridors, their final agonies swallowed by the oppressive dark. Children were born into this misery, their very first breaths filled with the fetid air of despair, and many did not survive their first year. Those who did found themselves trapped in a cycle of poverty and darkness, growing up amid violence, sickness, and death. It's said that many who died here were never properly buried. Their bodies were simply left to decay in the very chambers where they'd lived and suffered. It wasn't until the mid-20th century that the vaults were rediscovered. For years they'd been sealed off, forgotten beneath the city. Their grim history buried under layers of progress. In the 1980s, construction workers stumbled upon the hidden chambers whilst renovating the South Bridge area. To be more specific, beneath an old whiskey shop named Rutherford's. Among those involved in the rediscovery was a local builder named Norrie Rowan. Norrie was attempting to create a new route through the underground for a pub expansion, and inadvertently broke through a sealed-off section of the vaults. Norrie and his crew found themselves standing in a labyrinth that had been forgotten for centuries, uncovering chambers that still bore the signs of their tragic past. What they found was a labyrinth of squalor, filled with remnants of the past. Broken bottles, rusted tools, the bones of those forgotten by time. These vaults, once again exposed, began to draw the attention of historians, paranormal enthusiasts, and those curious enough to venture into the darkness. With there being no access to those vaults for centuries, it wasn't the fear of running into any human threat that sent a chill down the spine of those first brave enough to investigate the untouched surroundings. It was the overwhelming fear and feeling of sheer malevolence. A sense of 100 eyes staring at you stepping through the new hole in that old wall. But there was a sense of being surrounded, despite not a single, living person residing in the numerous twisting and turning tunnels. Of all the entities that are said to linger within the Edinburgh vaults, none are as infamous or as unsettling as the figure simply known as Mr. Boots. Let's take a quick break in proceedings to talk to you about the holiday season and the M word. Not mistletoe, money. Because food, decorations, presents, they don't come for free, and at this time of year, everyone knows to the last digit what is in their bank account. Well, I know I do anyway, and when I get my statement in January, I look and think, I didn't need to go out then, I didn't need to buy that, I didn't need to buy as many of those. And I kick myself and say, next year you'll do something better with your money. And that was me rinse and repeat until last year when I actually did. Now, you'll have heard me talk about acorns before, and there's a reason for it, because acorns make it easy to start automatically saving and investing for you, your kids, your retirement, even during the holidays. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that matches you. And you don't need a ton of time. You can create your Acorns account and start automatically investing your money in just 5 minutes. And you don't need to be rich. Acorns let you get started with the spare money you've got right now. That could be $5 a day or just even your spare change. That's right, Acorns can round every purchase you make up to $1 and automatically invest that spare change for you. So if you buy a coffee on the way to work, that's investing. And you can get bonus investments just for buying the stuff you need from the brands you love. The change I said I made last year, well, I looked at all the excess I would have spent and I invested it. And believe me, guys, that's why Acorns are so important. And I'll be doing the same this year, because when you look at your statement in January and you see you've invested money instead of wasting it, it's a great feeling. So head over to acorns.com/dark paranormal or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. Paid non-client endorsements. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Investment involves risk. Acorns Advisors LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/dark paranormal. Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. If you haven't finished your holiday shopping yet, don't panic. We've got a secret source of incredible original gifts, and that's Uncommon Goods. They've got unique hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts that spark joy, wonder, delight, and that it's exactly what I wanted feeling. Somehow they know exactly the perfect gift for every single person you know. So skip the gifts that scream last minute buy and find something truly original at uncommongoods.com. I've already mentioned they've helped me solve a headache I have each year buying one individual a perfect gift. And I found it on Uncommon Goods, a dream globe. And I know this individual will love it. And this individual is the hardest person to buy for, so I love it too. And when you buy from Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists, small independent businesses. Uncommon Goods look for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the US. Or what about an uncommon experience, more than a virtual class, and something that won't be lost in the mail, including everything from cooking to tarot card reading, their unexpected opportunities to have fun and connect in new ways. And every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give back $1 to a non-profit partner of your choice. And they've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/dark paranormal. That's uncommongoods.com/dark paranormal. And don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. Theories about Mr. Boots' origins abound, with some suggesting he may have been a notorious overseer who preyed upon the vulnerable inhabitants of the underworld, a smuggler or gang member who ruled the vaults with violence and fear. There are even accounts that he could have been a resident who met a violent end, his restless spirit now haunting the very place of his own death. Despite these different theories, all seem to agree that Mr. Boots exudes an aura of hatred, as though he resents the living for trespassing in his dark domain. Described as a tall, dark figure in tattered clothing, Mr. Boots is said to stalk the lower vaults, his heavy footsteps echoing long before he makes his presence known. Tour guides recount the tales of terrified visitors who have felt an icy breath upon their necks, or heard the unmistakable clack of boots against stone behind them, only to turn around and find nothing. Some even claim that Mr. Boots has been lurking in the shadows, his face obscured, but his hostile intent unmistakable. I felt a presence behind me, and then the cold. It was like the warmth had been sucked out of the room, one visitor recounted. I turned, and there he was, just a shadow. But I knew he was watching. Another chilling presence within the vaults is that of a young boy known as Jack. Unlike the malevolent Mr. Boots, Jack's spirit is thought to be more mischievous than threatening. Visitors often report feeling a small hand slip into theirs, or hearing the laughter of a child echo faintly through the cold, dark chambers. It felt like a child was just holding my hand, said one witness. But when I looked down, there was nothing there. But there was a feeling of sadness, like he wanted me to stay. Some guides suggest that Jack was one of the countless children who lived and died in these squalid conditions. His playful attempts to connect with the living are seen as a tragic reminder of the innocent lives lost in Edinburgh's underworld. But perhaps the most unsettling experiences reported in the Edinburgh vaults involve the oppressive, almost tangible sense of despair that clings to the air. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site describe an overwhelming heaviness, a feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. The air down there feels thick, noted one investigator. It's like the walls themselves are breathing, watching. You can't shake that feeling that you're not alone, even for a second. One theory is the good old stone tape theory. The idea that the walls of the vault themselves have absorbed the intense emotions of those who once lived there. Their fear, their desperation, their anger, creating an atmosphere so charged that it manifests as a paranormal presence. It's not uncommon for visitors to feel suddenly nauseous or overwhelmed by sadness, as if the emotions of the past are reaching out to them from beyond the grave. There are also tales of darker rituals conducted within the vaults. In the mid-20th century, stories began circulating about occult groups using the underground chambers for ceremonies intended to summon or bind spirits. These rituals were said to involve a variety of disturbing practices, including blood sacrifices and the invocation of malevolent entities. Witnesses claim to have seen hooded figures entering the vaults late at night, their faces covered and strange guttural chants echoing throughout the chambers. There are accounts from former workers who recall strange symbols painted on the walls, remnants of candles and other ritualistic items scattered across the floor. One particular chilling theory suggests that these occult groups attempted to summon powerful spirits and bind them to the location, either for protection or for control. Such rituals, whether real or imagined, are said to have left a spiritual scar on the area, further enhancing its reputation as one of the most haunted locations in Edinburgh. Some paranormal researchers believe that these rituals may have inadvertently opened a portal between worlds, allowing entities to cross over and linger. These entities, once awakened, may have been amplified by the vault's history of suffering, giving rise to the more malevolent presences that haunt the vault today. One documented case involves an individual known as Robert Taylor, who claimed to have participated in one such ritual during the 70s. Taylor later recounted his experiences to a local journalist. He described the oppressive atmosphere of the vaults as unlike anything on Earth. He spoke of hearing disembodied voices, feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, and witnessing a dark figure materialize within the ritual circle. It was as if the darkness itself had taken form, Taylor stated. We all ran. I've never set foot in those vaults again. Such accounts, whether anecdotal or documented, have only contributed to the vault's fearsome reputation. Many believe that these dark ceremonies have infused the vaults with a potent, sinister energy, one that continues to resonate, creating an atmosphere that's as terrifying as it is tangible. One particularly disturbing account involves a group of paranormal enthusiasts who decided to spend the night within the vaults. According to their testimony, the group experienced a number of strange events. Objects moving on their own, the temperature suddenly dropping, and one member of the group felt as though they were being strangled by invisible hands. I couldn't breathe, one participant later recalled. It felt like someone had their hands around my throat, but no one was there. I thought I was going to die. The experience clearly left them shaken, and several of the participants later reported recurring nightmares and a sense of being followed long after they left the vaults. The Edinburgh vaults are a place where history and legend intertwine, creating a narrative both compelling and deeply unsettling. Whether you believe in the paranormal or not, you cannot deny the vault's dark past and the lingering aura of fear and despair that seems to emanate from the very walls. The spirits said to haunt this subterranean labyrinth serve as a chilling reminder of the lives that were lived and lost in the shadows beneath Edinburgh's streets. Today, the vaults are a popular destination for ghost tours, attracting visitors from around the globe, eager to experience the thrill of the unknown. As you descend into the darkness, guided only by the dim light of a lantern, you may find yourself wondering, are the stories true? Is there someone really lurking in the shadows, watching, waiting? And if you should do so and hear the echo of footsteps that aren't your own, or you feel an inexplicable chill in the air, remember, the vaults are a place where the past is never truly at rest, and some doors, once opened, can never be closed. YouTube is covered with paranormal investigations of the Edinburgh vaults, and I would strongly suggest you root one of them out. Some of them are the typical jump and scare and run at anything type of video, others are more serious. But the one thing you do get to see within all of them are the vaults themselves. And for that, these videos alone are worth at least a short watch. But for now, we say goodbye to the Edinburgh vaults and the wonderful city of Edinburgh itself. And we will return again next Monday for another trip to the Dark Realm.